What's up, Square Body family? Good morning. So, I'm looking for a little help here. So, I'm getting ready to select somebody to do this $2,500 giveaway. And I was thinking about some things that I had in my other shop. I know I'm chink-eyed. This sun's coming right over the Clinch Mountain this morning and shining right in my eyes. So, in my other shop, I made some jigs out of some truck frames. I found that was the best thing to do to put body parts on, cab and bed and front clip and stuff, while I was painting it. So what I want to find is preferably just a 2-wheel drive, long wheelbase, just a rolling chassis. That's all I need. It don't have to have the front end cradle in it. I don't need that, but I would like it to have a rear end in it so that I can make the rear of the chassis into a little wagon, and then the front section I'm gonna put up and put casters on the bottom of it, make it so I can roll around the cabin front clip and then roll around the bed. So that's what I'm looking for, guys. I'm looking for a long wheelbase, rolling chassis, 81 to 87. 73 to 80 would probably work. I think they're pretty close to the same. I'd rather have a newer one. I don't want any kind of rust or anything on it. Maybe y'all could, somebody, I guarantee one of y'all's got one laying in the weeds or somewhere. A 2-wheel drive long bed chassis ain't a hot commodity, so I'm sure one of y'all's got one laying around. But on this giveaway, so the way this works, I've got a lot of people commenting on it and a lot of people messaging and kind of wanting to know what I'm doing. So I'm not painting anything for free. I'm not giving away a paint job. That's not really what this is. So basically, you know, your average paint job is going to be anywhere from $7,000, $10,000 for what I do, for my work. And if you get that same work from another shop, it's going to be $20,000. That's how much cheaper I'm going to be than everybody else. But with this $2,500 giveaway, I'm basically giving away 2 extra weeks so that I can go deeper into somebody's vehicle and make them a nicer paint job than what they were originally going to be paying for. So somebody's going to get a heck of a deal and a better job than what they could afford to pay for to start with. So basically, if your budget was $7,000, that buys your materials, and your budget was $7,000. So what you were going to pay for was only going to be able to pay for $7,000. Well, maybe you only could, the way your budget was, maybe you wanted to skip out on cutting and buffing because you wanted to put it in other areas, or maybe you wanted to skip out on taking your bed off, or this or that. Preferably, I wouldn't want to do that, but because everything that comes out of my shop, I want to be really nice. But with what I'm giving away, that gives you the ability to go that extra mile, do the cut and buff, take some body parts off with those extra 2 weeks. So you're getting a really good deal. I'm going above and beyond so that I can create content and give somebody a great deal. But keep in mind, if you're not, if your vehicle isn't selected for this, don't get disheartened, or don't just write it off as you can't afford a paint job. And you'll see as I go, especially going through this first one, and the more you watch and the more you see what I'm doing, there's no reason why you can't afford a nice paint job. If you go to another shop like the ones I've worked at, I mean, they're charging anywhere from $90 to $100, $125 an hour for paint work. That's insane. There's no reason you need to pay that unless you're doing some really serious metal work and gapping it out, and I mean making show car quality I'm not going that deep into these things, but I'm still making really slick trucks. And I don't have the overhead that a lot of these other shops have, and I'm not paying labor out to other people to come do the work for me. So where they're charging, $100 an hour, I'm charging $30. So you're getting what you would be paying them for a $30,000 paint job. You're getting from me for 10, if that makes sense. Like I said, yeah, I'm not going to be, cutting into your gaps and gapping everything out and making a SEMA build, which SEMAs are pretty shitty, but I'm not building something that's going to be at some big $100,000 car show. But if you followed me and you followed my work, you've seen my work slick, and that's what you're going to get. You'll get a slick truck that, driver quality, well, on the very higher end of driver quality. It's going to be something you're still going to be polishing on and being proud of, but you're not paying for a $100,000 paint job, and you're not getting something that, if it gets a little scratch on it, it's the end of the world. We can always touch that back up. And part of this too, your material, save your paint, save whatever's left over when we do your car, save your material. You paid for it. So if you ever have any kind of issue like that, we can go back over it. I'm going to stand behind my work. What I do, I'm standing behind it. So if there's an issue with something I done, bring it back and we'll fix it. My name is on your truck. So when my name is on your truck, I don't want you getting on Facebook and saying, this name screwed up my truck. I want you getting on there and saying, this guy did a great job. You ain't even got to get on Facebook and say there's something wrong with it. If there was ever something wrong with it, you come back to me and we'll fix it and we'll get it right. I'm going to stand behind what I'm doing. 20 years from now, if I'm dead, dig me up, put my bones on a rolly chair, and hand me a paint gun, and we'll get you fixed up. But anyway, guys, that's what I'm looking for. Long bed chassis, something I can make some jigs out of. There's some other shop stuff that I'm needing. Maybe we'll make another video on that later. Last year, or my last shop, it was a lot easier because I built it over 4 or 5 years. So I'm building this over a couple months, so it's a lot more out of my pocket, and it's a lot harder getting everything together and getting ready to go. That's why I'm trying to more or less get in here before it's completely ready to go, just so I can get going and finish building as I go. So there's things that need to be finished up, and I'll probably have to work on my shop a little bit while I'm in my spare time and certain days, kind of as I go. But we'll deal with that, and within a year or so we should have a nice shop. And heck, I ain't even got my house completely done, but my goal in the next year or so is get everything completely done and build nice trucks. I mean, that's what I want to do, is build nice trucks. If we get so busy, that I need to hire somebody else, I will. If I get so busy, so many people wanting something done that I need to rent a shop somewhere, I will. If that's what has to be done, if I get that much work. But the main thing is I want people to be able to have nice paint work at something they can afford. I mean, there's no point in charging people stuff they can't afford. It's silly. So, as long as I can live and eat, there's no reason why you need to take food out of somebody else's mouth just to try to live, look like you're rich or something. I mean, I don't need a $100,000 truck to ride around in. I'm happy with my old OBS truck. You know what I mean? I don't need all this fancy stuff. I built my house out of my pocket. It's paid for. I don't have some big mortgage rate I'm trying to pay. As long as I can live and try to, take my kids fishing or whatever, then be pretty happy. If my weed eater breaks and I can afford to buy another weed eater, that's pretty much the way I'd like to live. So if I can do what my goal is here, there's no reason that you can't afford a nice paint job and I can't afford to buy a weed eater. So like I was saying, if you don't get selected to do this, $2,500 off giveaway, don't get disheartened. Holler at me. I guarantee you we could still work something out and get you a nice paint job. Probably a lot nicer than what you were expecting for your budget. That's what this is about. Yeah, I'm working by the hour, but a lot of people want to ask me, hey, what's it going to cost to get this painted? Well, here, old gobbler over on the ridge. A lot of people want to ask me, what's this going to cost to get this painted? And, well, it's more about what is your budget, because this is by the hour, and of course your materials are high anyway. So right off the rip, I can tell you what your materials are going to cost. But you tell me your budget, and I can tell you where I can put my hours and what kind of job you can get. You know what I mean? So it's hard for you just to say, what's this going to cost? Because I don't know what you want done. But if I know your budget, then I can say, okay, this is what we can do. Now, if your budget's too low, I may say, well, you may want to holler back at me, because I'm not going to do something halfway. I'm not going to do a bad job just because your budget's not there. But that being said, you can't get a $3,000 paint job and it come out right. If your materials are $2,000, $1,000 ain't going to go too far on a paint job unless it's literally just a scratch and spray because it needs zero body work. A newer vehicle that needs a repaint, you might get done close to that. But for a decent paint job, average, it'd be between 5 and 10, depending on what you want done, what your budget is. You could get a pretty slick truck. But share my video, guys. Help me out. I'm trying to grow this, and not only do I want to get into growing the TikTok stuff and all that stuff I ain't never messed with, I want to get that going and bigger so that I can get into doing motivational stuff and making motivational videos and a lot of how-tos. Teach you a lot of how to do this stuff yourself if you're interested. There's a lot of people that might have the time or might want to do it and just don't know how. But with my videos that I'm going to make, maybe that's something you can work out. And that's another thing too. What shop are you going to take your truck to that you're going to get to watch all kinds of videos of your truck being painted? Because that's my plan. When I'm painting these trucks and doing stuff, I'm going to be putting it on TikTok and YouTube or whatever, and Facebook. So you'll be able to see a lot of the process of your truck being done, just because I'm wanting to make content. I never got into the whole social media stuff much in my last shop, and I probably should have. But I never cared about it. Didn't know much about it. But the more I've got into it, I've just now got into TikTok. I watch YouTube a lot, but I've never posted much on there. I just started posting some things on TikTok, and I still don't follow people. I still don't really watch it much, but I'll get on there sometimes and I'll search something if I'm trying to figure out how to do something. So I figure, maybe what I'm doing, people, might need to search for it. Maybe if they search for how to sand this fender or whatever, then they can get on there and see me teaching somebody how to do that. But while I'm doing that, I want to get to the point where I'm motivational speaking while I'm doing the work, so I can help build better men, better fathers. We're living in a pretty crappy age. Good men are a thing of the past. So that's where I want to go. That's where I'm headed. So y'all help me out. Share my video. I still ain't exactly chose somebody for the giveaway. I've got a couple people that are pretty interested. So maybe that's still up for grabs. We'll see. We should know something in the next few days. But y'all have a good morning. We'll leave it at that.